Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hello, and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zanker, and I'm your host. And on this show, I always tell you this, we're looking for the greatest ideas. We're looking for people who are going to challenge the way that we currently do things. And I am excited today to talk about the myth of the work-life balance, right? Is that, so we're going to really be challenged today as to what that really is, what we think that is. And David McNeff is with us, and he is a thought leader, an executive coach, a high-profile jury trial consultant. He's a profiling expert. He's a workshop facilitator and author with that new book that just came out called Work-Life Balance Myth. And he's also a keynote speaker. And interesting enough, he's also a former collegiate athlete who's fascinated with peak performance. So we're going to hear more from Dave about all of this and how it relates to work-life balance. Dave, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Penny.
I'm excited to have you here because, work-life balance is more important now than ever. Because the pandemic, you hear people saying that they're working more than they ever were because they're not turning off. There's no transition now, and they're working later and longer hours. So why did you write this book this year? Is this like a new thing? Has it been brewing for like 10 years?
Yes to all those questions. Yes. So the history here is I started using this method that's in the book, The Work-Life Balance Myth, well over 10 or 12 years ago, because the work at the time, this was sort of the post-financial debacle in 2008 and 9, a lot of people on Wall Street lost their jobs. The country was in free fall financially for a while. There was a lot of stress.
Remember, it was not a good year for me either.
Yeah, no, it was not a good time for a lot of folks.
Not a good time.
And so I just assumed everyone kind of knew this method and used this method. And I kind of accidentally drew the 7-slice pie on a whiteboard with a couple of executives. And I said, well, this is how you manage stress. You have 7 slices of your life.
The wheel of life, so to speak, right? I've heard it.
Wheel of life, yeah, so to speak. Okay. And I said, the myth is that you only have 2 lives. You have work and family, work and home. I said, that's a myth. And there's no balance, because most of your time, if you're going to try and balance your time, that's impossible to do because work takes up so much. But if you look at your other 5 slices, which people go, what are you talking about? What are these 5? So I would write down in each slice.
So inform our listeners, what are your slices?
Right. So there's 7 slices, of course, are your professional slice, your family slice, your personal slice, your emotional slice, your physical slice, your intellectual slice, and finally, your spiritual slice. So these other 5 slices, it always seemed to me, were part of our lives that if we spent any time in them at all, would help reduce or manage all of the stress that, in general, for most of us, gets manufactured out of work and home. That's where all the pressure and deadlines and money is that people need to survive. And so when I started using this little wheel, this wheel of life, and asking people to put their percentage of time that they spend in all 7, it was hilarious because they would have
zero on all the
they would come up with like 330%. And I go, no, it's 100. Start with 100% of your time. Where does it go? And the shock to them was the zeros that were in more than 1 slice. So they would look at their emotional slice and go, I don't even think about my emotion. Okay. Spiritual. Oh, I used to meditate. I don't do that anymore. I used to go to church. I don't do that anymore. Okay. Physical. Well, I used to be an athlete and run, and now I don't do anything.
All of the things that help to I guess, create that balance or make us have more meaning, feel good about ourselves, we squeeze them right out. Like, what's up with that?
Well, it's the culprit is everyone surrenders to time. I don't have the time. Work and my family take all of my time. So therefore, I end up shortchanging myself and ignoring the benefit that I could get from a physical life. If I took a walk with my partner or spouse twice a week for 20 minutes, would the world come to an end? Would you get fired for doing that? No, I don't think so. If you spent 10 minutes a night reading a book that you're actually curious to learn intellectually more about, would you suffer some terrible consequence? And so when I wrote the book, and I'll go back to, why the COVID and so forth. So, I write about the case studies. I think I probably write about 10 or 15 of these case studies of executives.
Lawyer in you, right?
There you go. I wrote up these case studies of people who used the method who were in tremendous trouble, health problems, financial problems,
right,
career problems, what have you. And the pitch that I have for everyone in the book is, I can't help the level of stress that you have. And I think stress is just going to keep coming because it seems to be part of our life. But this method can certainly help any one of us manage themselves through it. And the case studies prove the notion that though it doesn't really exist, balance, people felt balanced, though it was really harmony. So I think this method creates a sense of I'm living a whole life now,
right,
as opposed to a myopic, narrow life. And as a result, perspective, I have a sense of calm, I'm a little bit more myself, and that feels like balance, when in fact, of course, in reality, it's not. So I gave a talk on this subject before I wrote the book.
Before you go on, let me interrupt you for a second. So I want to come back and talk a little bit about the why, right? Because, when I talk about this with people, I really feel like the reason that things, and I just want to get your feeling on it, that we kind of squeeze out those other things is it's because we're so desperate to look to control things. And so we try to control the things that we can't control, and that exhausts us. And the things that we can control, like you said, a little bit of time for ourselves, doing things that make us feel better, eating right. Those are all things we choose what goes in our mouth. We choose if we move our body, that we get caught up in this learned helplessness, right? It's kind of like a cycle. And then that record player plays that says, I don't have the time. I don't have the time.
Right. So my position on that is this, and it comes up about once or twice a week in my actual professional work. It's simply a decision. So when you and I wake up one afternoon and take a look around and go, oh my gosh, I am so overwhelmed. I am out of control. This is crazy. And ask, well, how did this happen? I go back and say, you made a decision to let it happen. So it's kind of like the frog boiling slowly in a pot of water. It's not like on a Tuesday you became suddenly overwhelmed, but over the course of 20 Tuesdays, you did. But you didn't notice it, and you made a decision, in my opinion. We make decisions to ignore the obvious sometimes. And so my position is, if you make a decision that every week I'll spend some time in at least 2 of those 5 slices, a funny thing happens, you get a benefit from it, but the result is based on a decision to do it. And some people do it by scheduling. Some people do it by sharing the experience with someone else, like we're both going to do this together. I've had teams decide to do it for a month to give it a try, but it's a decision to change your mind and say it's okay. So and in COVID, you mentioned a fabulous point a few minutes ago, that line between work and home got blurred because everybody was in lockdown. And then due to hybrid, you're still at home working, though you might go into an office.
Right.
That line is still blurred. So you can, in the pursuit of efficiency, we overwork, over Zoom, over schedule, but you don't have to. You could still make a decision to have a boundary. Like I stop work at 6:15. Well, Dave, there's still more to do, and it's due, by noon tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I got that. But if we were in the office, you'd be going home now, not working.
Right. And if you were in the hospital, you'd be doing nothing.
Nothing. You would be very worse. You would be in trouble.
That's right. So we forget that if we make ourselves sick, right, then we're going to be way further behind than if we just take care of ourselves. And in that, we're going to be working quicker when we do work.
I can't agree with that more. And part of the decision making is that. So let's say you don't make a decision to do it. Let's play that out. So why don't you just keep working at this current schedule?
That's right.
What do you think you'll be like by January? What kind of shape are you going to be in? Well, I'm sure it'll straighten out by then. I go, well, why? Why is it going to straighten out? I mean, what's going to happen? So, the people who I wrote about in the book were in trouble. So none of the examples were casual, hey, give this a try because have some laughs. This was, I need something right now or I'm going to go under.
It's like on the verge of burnout, which a lot of people feel, that they're there. A lot of people feel that they're there because there's all that extra emotional stress that's tugging around about the concern about, Delta now and, what does that mean? And, a constant set of disruptions that are, new disruptions, right? So now kids are back in school, but the buses aren't running properly because they have a shortage of bus drivers. So even though I'm supposed to go to work, I have to drive my kids all over the place. So there's just these new things that are creating these extra emotional pull on us.
Well, and I think personally, the pull is going to keep going. I think the new normal is going to change every month for the next 4 months. I'm convinced of it. From whether we go back, we don't come back, you need a vaccine, or you can't come in. Whatever is going on is going to add, not take away, stress. So I'm one of those, why don't you just accept it and then decide, what am I going to do about it?
Right.
If I can't stop it from coming, okay, I got that. What do I do about me so that I can be a good spouse, parent, friend, sibling, whatever my roles are in my life? I've got to understand that if I'm upset and under stress, it has a ripple effect on others that you're engaged with. And so
totally. So do you feel that circle, like, other people who talk about that circle of life with the different slices that they talk about, do you feel that has to be, they say if it's not round, if you don't have, when you dock off how much time you spend in each, they say it should be round. Otherwise a wheel doesn't, it right? It doesn't.
No, I get that analogy, but no, I don't. I accept it, but my observation is you can't hit a home run every time up at the plate, to use another analogy. Like if you just wander into 2 slices every now and then, it's a benefit. It's going to help whatever is going on in your 2 main events in your home and your professional life be a little bit better. What's the risk there of taking a few minutes each week to do it? Would it be great if you could be in all 7 every week? Well, of course, you'd probably be a very relaxed, happy person.
Right.
But if you can't, because of circumstances, 2 isn't bad. 3 would be phenomenal. 3 more than the main 2, that's pretty good. Give that a try. And I think if I'm right, if I'm listening to my clients who are reading the book, and I recommend in the book, you read it in chunks, because I think if you read the whole thing in one sitting, you forget things. But what they have told me is, well, I'm on chapter 4 on that personal slice, and I'm really leaning into that. I'm starting to do a thing for myself, and I'm going to see how that goes. And then later, a month later or 2 months, they go, I'm going to lean into the chapter 5 now and chapter 6. So I believe in incremental, continuous improvement rather than searching for the Big Bang theory of doing it all at once.
Well, I think that is one of the things that keeps people from making progress is their expectation is all or nothing, right? I'm either going to do it all and I'm going to have it all and I'm going to have that full circle. And it's just not realistic.
Yeah.
right? Like, I love the book, The One Thing, but it's not realistic. Like I have different roles in my life and it's unrealistic for me to say, I'm going to focus on one thing. Sorry, that just doesn't cut it, right? We're going to have many things. So I think that's the first step probably for people is to give themselves permission to dip their toe in and maybe take 10 minutes for themselves if that's all they have. But it doesn't have to be an equal share across the board.
And Penny, COVID you asked originally, why now? Why McGraw-Hill, the publisher, really put the pressure on me in COVID to finish the book because they felt that eventually people were going to suffer stress, burnout, etc. And one of the interesting things is, with the hybrid return, a lot of the clients that, I work with who saw the people come back in, they went, oh my gosh, these people are burning out. Their energy level is down, their enthusiasm is lower, their difficult time concentrating. And so I do think the long-term effect, let's say we deal with COVID for the next year, let's say in one form or another. I think some people are getting worn down, maybe not out, but worn down by it without a release, without a way, to release it in a healthy way. Because, life is replete with coping devices from drugs, alcohol, gambling, sex, all kinds of things you can.
Right, all of those favorites that we like to go to.
we love those. But, those can get control and be a negative impact.
Yeah.
These things that are innate in all of us, your emotional and your spiritual life, none of those things are negative to spend time in. That's right. What I have found.
This topic of work-life balance, it's been around forever, right? And, I'm wondering what your opinion is on this. What's the company's responsibility? Because, it seems to be it's all on, hey, you individual, you set some boundaries. But by the way, I'm going to email you at night and I'm going to text you at night and in the morning before you wake up. And I'm going to give you more than you can handle in one day for capacity. There's a lot of people who are just like, what am I supposed to do? So what would you say to companies? What's their responsibility?
Great question. So leadership flows downhill. Companies don't lead from the bottom, they lead from the top. So every culture, you just said, every culture sometimes has lip service that, yes, we care about work and life and balance and so forth, but in actuality, they crush you. So what I've seen is large companies literally invest money in the form of programs, almost as a way to socially check the box. We are serving our employee base with massage therapy schedule, free lunches every Wednesday, your birthday day off, put in programs. So large companies. Mid-sized companies have said, great idea, have every VP address it the way they want to. Let us know how you do it. Small entrepreneurial companies, the leader makes the decision. So they build their value system around it. Look, we're a company, we're creative, we don't have to work in the office, we can work at home. We want you to stop working at 7:00 at night, no weekends, versus the next company goes, hey, look at whatever it takes. We're just going to do whatever it takes. We're going to climb the mountain. So if you need 100 days vacation, it's unlimited, but your work done. So I think every culture has its own approach that's unique for their size of what they think they can provide and control.
What I'm hearing is that, yes, that's true. But like you said, it's kind of lip service. Like, I'm not seeing, there's a couple companies, absolutely, that are leading the charge and really, really doing something about it. But I'm talking to a lot of the people who are like, there might be this program, but I don't have any possibility to take advantage of it. Well,
so here's let me toss this question out to you. So
and by the way, I'm playing also that listener who's saying, yeah, but, right? I want them to, and the person who's the leader for their team who has an opportunity to put something more in place, right? As opposed to just like, here's a yoga class. Well, give everybody off and no emails will fly. And everybody has, off half a day a week to actually do self-care.
Right. So I'll be curious to get your reaction to this. I call it assuming versus confirming. So whenever I've provided feedback to a leader to say, by the way, your team is pretty stressed out and they can't believe that you don't know it and you keep piling work on. And they look at me dumbfounded and they go, oh, well, if they need time off, they know they can take time off. They don't have to get it all done. Well, and then I go, well, I know, but you're sending weekend emails like at 9:00 at night and they feel they have to respond. Oh, no. They don't have to respond. I'm busy. That's just me. They can do what you want. I go, are you assuming they know that? Well, yes, I do. I go, I think you should go confirm that.
Right.
So what I'm finding is most leaders are assuming you and everyone else knows that they don't have to stress themselves out without actually confirming, here are the expectations. My expectation is if I send you an email on the weekend, you don't have to respond till Monday. I just want to get it off my desk.
Right.
I go, well, they don't know that. So I think
I call it the hot potato, right? It's a hot potato and they don't want to, I got to, and they're going to hand it over to somebody else. But you don't, you can just wait until it cools and then you can do something with your potato, right?
Exactly. And I think leaders forget the ripple effect they have on their team. Like if they're upset, that being upset upsets everyone else. Oh no, well, what's wrong? What's happening now? Which creates stress. And this is where leaders forget how important their approach is in communication. So lots of times on Zoom, it's brutal. They're just fact-based, okay, A, B, C, and D. Everyone fine with that? Good, because I got to go. I'm double booked. I'm off. And then the team is left with, oh no, I have no idea how I'm going to do this. What just happened to me in a 10-minute Zoom call? And so I think that's the burnout thing, because if that happens once a day for 20 days in a row, you're a mess. On day 21, you're like a mess. You're despondent, you're discouraged, and you're without optimism and hope that things are getting better. So that's why, by the way, the clients I have who really want their people back in the office, they've talked about efficiency, over efficiency at home versus effectiveness being in the office. The thought being, if we see and talk to each other, we can talk to each other about what's a priority and what isn't, rather than everything being a priority at home.
Right. Well, and in theory, either whether you're at home or you're at work, you need to have those conversations. So if they're not happening, then, they need to happen. I'm not a big believer that you have to be in the office to get stuff done.
Yep.
I know, there's a mixed feeling about that. But I think that our communication needs to reflect where people are and change accordingly, for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm in the middle on the hybrid, no hybrid, all work, no work at home. I think each company has to figure it out based on what the needs are. And, execution clearly is easier and more effective at home. There's no question about it. Managing work, I think it can be done at home certainly half the time. You can manage a team remotely half the time. Leadership, I don't know how well you can lead 100% from home. I think people have to get the nonverbal. They have to get the sense of you. They've got to hear the tone of your voice in reality, not on a computer speaker. I think leadership suffers if everyone's at home all the time. That's just how I'm looking at it so far.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely something missing if people aren't together, right? Where there's an energy and a connection that you make when you're together with people, things that you experience and do together. So, for sure there is something that's missing or different. But like you said, every company's got to figure that out, and they better figure it out fast, because people are not wanting to come back, and they're leaving their jobs because they're not wanting to come back. So this is an interesting time. So maybe, what's your opinion on this? Are people finally setting boundaries for themselves? Are they saying that I am worn down and I realize that in some ways I can get more done at home, and this is the way I want to work in the future? Is this a mass setting of boundaries, a correction for years of not setting boundaries?
I think what I've noticed for the first time, maybe ever, certainly maybe I just wasn't paying attention to it, but clearly everyone asks themselves, is this working for me? Does this work for me? And the answers are different. Some people are, well, it'll work better if I'm in the office. So those are the people who want to go because I think it'll work better for me in there. Okay, fine. The next group goes, boy, I think this is great. I want to stay home forever. Okay, so there you go. The next group goes, well, I wouldn't mind having Friday at home and Monday at home. So I like to do both. And then other people go, I'm in the wrong business. I don't even like now that I've paused at home,
right?
I don't even like this. I'm moving. I'm changing careers. Or if I'm going to do something I'm not that crazy about, I want more money while working at home. So we're seeing a lot of this, what we're calling poaching.
Right.
So people who are like IT specialists are the main event. IT specialists, they're going for the highest dollar.
Yeah.
Hey, you can stay at home. Would you run our IT thing? I'll pay you, $20,000 more than you're getting today. Okay, I'll do it.
Right. Well, of course, I'll do it. Right.
What's the difference? I'll make an extra 20 doing the exact same thing from my home. So I'm not seeing a universal anything. I'm just finding people all asking themselves the same question. Yeah. Does this work for me?
Absolutely.
So
I'd love to keep talking about this, but I know that we have people with short attention spans.
Yes, we do.
So let me ask you a couple of questions that I like to generally ask, just to see your opinion on that. And then we'll wrap it up and let people know where they can go to get your book and hear more about you.
Perfect.
What's your definition of productivity and why?
Productivity is a great question in terms of sector to sector. Continuous, consistent improvement. So productivity measurement is always around what is improving. So I tend not to think about what did we produce this afternoon, are we growing? Are we hitting and meeting expectations? Are we exceeding? And if not, why not? Because that's a productivity issue. So I tend to look at it, it's a result-based question about how productive are we? Well, your numbers tell you what your productivity level is and whether it's fabulous and leave it alone or it needs improvement.
But what it brings up for me is a whole host of questions. Well, if that's that's one slice. What's productive for me as an individual, right? Is like you're talking about it, I guess, from the overall company perspective, but as an individual, right, I may be more productive doing less and be able to reach my goals and still, right, be able to
let me thread the needle.
There's a point where it tips over, right? And you become very over efficient or over functioning, and then you no longer are as efficient and effective as you once were.
Right. So I was addressing results. I think what you're talking about, I'm threading the needle a little bit, but the question that runs with it is, am I productive and am I developing? So the individual versus the work, I view as two separate. So being productive can be great, but I'm not learning anything new. In other words, I'm cranking out 10% more every quarter, but I'm not growing. So I'm unhappy. So I tend to look at productivity and development as a leadership responsibility. So just being productive is fine, but your talent needs to grow because they get bored. Once they master something, they'll get bored and go, well, what's next? So I think both run hand in hand. And in COVID, development has been a challenge because with everyone at home, it's harder to develop people's talents because I don't have as much daily, weekly contact because, versus Zoom once or twice a week. So
Well,
I
you
think
could, right? It's basically what somebody sets up, right? How often they're checking in and what kind of questions and conversations are being had.
yeah, and I'm finding now a lot of my clients are scheduling more 15-minute meetings versus one hour meeting per week,
Mm-hmm.
where we just handle one subject. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow for another 15 and 15 and 15.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people are finding that's more productive. And I feel I'm developing because I've got a better, more frequent relationship with my supervisors, for example.
Right.
Or
Right.
my
That makes sense. And you're not flipping from thing to thing, right? So it's about one thing, and then you can have another short little meeting on another thing. It keeps from task switching, and from a mind perspective, helps you stay clear in your head and stay focused.
Right. And one of those 15-minute meetings is about them versus the work.
Yeah.
So how are you doing? Are you bored? Are you interested? Are we what do we need? What do you need from us? How can I help? So those meetings are occurring a little more often through the summer and now September than they were, say, a year ago in COVID.
Right.
So we keep evolving. I mean, I mean it. I mean, the pace of play is so fast. It's just incredible. Just incredible. It's amazing.
So is there anything that I didn't ask you that you're like, you really should have asked me this?
The one question that I always, think people should ask, well, so what's the history here? Are people using it? And so two things. I have found some people, when it works so quickly, they feel so much better right away. Their life, the stress level goes down, life is okay. They drop it.
When it's too fast, they drop it.
They drop it versus this incremental leaning into it, if you will, like not slowly, but methodically. Let's say, okay, this month I'm going to try this slice and then I'll add rather than take away. I'll add. I have found people who do that, it just lingers. Like myself as an example, I'm a planner kind of guy. I like plans. So I just plan the time each week. So I don't even think about it. And as a result, I'm very fortunate. I've got good health and I've got a pretty good attitude and things are going on. Now, I've got mountains of stress pouring over me every day, but I'm not running, screaming from the building. And so that's the benefit. This works. So if you believe it works, then it should work long term.
Mm-hmm.
It's of no value if it's valuable short term, great, because it helps the 6-month period or 3-month period you had a tough time. But it's a lifestyle. It's kind of like the permanent diet versus the crash diet. That's the way
I was actually thinking, I was going to say it's the ice cream effect, right? Is it feels good when you eat it right away and you get this instant satisfaction and instant gratification, but it's not necessarily good for you in the long run.
In the long run. So that's the one thing that I do a number of these kind of 1 hour, no questions, just Dave talk for an hour, which are hard to do. But that's the message, that if you're going to do this, do it, make a decision to do it.
Right.
See if it works. And if it does work, keep it going.
Doing it.
Yeah.
Well, keep doing it. I know. We know what to do. We just don't do what we know, right?
Well, there we go. That's a great one. Great one.
So anyway, where can people find you, and find your book?
So the book is on Amazon called The Work-Life Balance Myth. 2 clicks and it's at your door in 2 days, which is great.
In the show notes.
Right. And then my email is McNeff@peakcg.com. I think it's in the book as well. And I'm in the Boston area, but, available. I used to travel the globe. Now I don't travel so much, but, like everyone else.
Right. Well, fantastic. Well, Dave, thank you so much for being here and writing such an important book.
Thank you, Penny. Thank you for having me. This is great. Great questions. Enjoyed it.
And thank you all for being here, because you know that this is something that you need in your life, is a little bit more, whatever it is, harmony, Dave said, balance, whatever you want to call it. We need that. We need that now, today, and we need it consistently throughout our life. So do check out Dave's book and see how some of the tips and tricks that are in there may help you to focus, like he said, just pick off one thing, focus on that, focus on just doing something for yourself, just a few minutes here and there, and then see how that feels and keep doing it and adding on to it. So my name is Penny Zinker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.